and I could hear angels singing. And I knew in my mind they were angels, but I never saw them. But I could hear them singing, and they sounded like instruments for their voices. And every unique voice had a different instrument. But boy, did they play beautifully. And my biggest takeaway on this is that they always were able to exhale and never inhale. So they were just pouring all of their love and soul and energy out into the universe with this beautiful song of no voices, no words, just harmonious, beautiful music. And it almost is like it becomes one with the light. And I am just embracing it and bringing it in. Healing, and I don't even know how long I was there.
Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today we have Crystal Faith Miller, who had a near-death experience back in 2000 where she was declared dead for 53 minutes. And since then, she's been exploring the mysteries of afterlife, spiritual realm, and interdimensional beings. I'm super excited to have Crystal Faith onto our podcast. Welcome to the Celeste Ball podcast, Crystal.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Tanya. Thank you for having me.
It is the nighttime here. And Crystal, for you, it's morning, right? Or afternoon?
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. Tell us what exactly happened that day and what were the events that led up to your near-death experience?
Yeah. Thank you for asking, Tanya. Back in 2000, I was actually on about to have a baby. I was in the hospital. I'd already been there for 10 weeks consecutively. I'm sorry, 10 days consecutively, but on bed rest for the majority of my pregnancy. So in and out of the hospital with a combined total of 10 weeks. So you can imagine after 10 days, I'm tired of being there. The hospital's tired of me being there, and I have almost 8 weeks to go. And they were about to discharge me in the evening, and I just suddenly had this instinct, maybe I should stay one more night. So I got permission to stay one more night, and sure enough, the next morning I went into very active labor, and they found that they couldn't do anything to stop it. So I'm going in 8 weeks early, and after a whole day of being in active labor, they decided to go ahead and put a monitor on the baby's head just to see if she was stressing out or having any breathing issues herself, or um, so as they put the monitor on the baby's head, which is a very manual process, they must have nicked a vein or something. We don't know what can cause an amniotic fluid embolism, but at this point, I start experiencing what they call an amniotic fluid embolism, which is when all of the fluid around the baby escapes the womb and travels through the mother's bloodstream. And at the time in 2000, they had very few cases internationally documented where the mother survives this incident. So immediately I was panicking. I couldn't breathe because my lungs were starting to fill up with fluid, and they assumed it was because of contractions. So they brought an anesthesiologist in to give me a epidural. And at the time, if you get an epidural and then have a C-section immediately following, you can potentially feel the C-section. So long story short, they come running in the room. They're like, baby is stressing. We need to remove her immediately. She was stressing because I was stressing. I couldn't breathe, so she couldn't breathe. And they weren't aware of my vitals quite yet. They weren't understanding what was going on. So they wheel me back into a C-section, and it's a university hospital where there is a doctor teaching students in the room what's going on during the C-section. And thank God he was there. He ultimately saves my life this night. So I'm in the C-section. I'm laying on the bed, and sure enough, I feel the C-section, which I'm not going to describe to your viewers, but it is not fun. And I'm laying there, and honestly, I can't even tell them I'm feeling pain. My mouth felt like a cotton ball, and I just felt completely 100% dehydrated. I couldn't even open my eyes. I felt paralyzed, but yet I could feel everything going on. And even when the anesthesiologist, like, are you okay? Checking in with me, I was trying to tell him no, and I couldn't even tell him no. I feel like I was crying, but I couldn't even um, shed a tear. So it was in complete turmoil. And I was praying and praying, oh my gosh, God, save me from this pain, get me out of this pain, and, allow me to leave. And um, suddenly I heard a really high pitched sound, which ultimately ended up being my daughter's first cry. It was high pitched because her lungs were premature, but I thought it was a power drill, which is kind of funny retrospectively, but it made me go into just that's it. That was the final straw. I'm like, I have no idea what they're going to do to me with this power drill, put you in the mind of a young mom, right? So at this point, I kind of like pop out of my body and I start seeing the C-section. I'm not paying attention to me. I was of no importance. I only really cared about the baby that was just born. And I am completely disassociated with the situation. I have no idea what's going on. All I know is that I did it. I managed to get this baby to come into the world. I had just spent all that time on bed rest, and here she is, a live birth, crying and, being taken care of. And I was just so proud of this baby. And the next few moments, I think what happened, and forgive me, because when you have a near death experience or an afterlife experience, and what I call it, there is there's no time. Time doesn't exist there. So you just see these scenes and you have to analyze much later, what scene leads to the next. And at this point, I don't remember seeing anything more. I just remember seeing my daughter. And then the next scene, I'm and then also, I just want to explain too, physically, my body died. And the doctor that was in the room that was teaching the students said, you know what, I think this is an amniotic fluid embolism. And he quickly ordered an x-ray and had them order an x-ray. And it was very, very fast. They didn't have a chance to like properly take care of me in the C-section room. They had to get me up to ICU. They revived me somewhere in this, but at one point on the way up to the ICU, I'm in the elevator and I'm looking down at the doctors standing around my bed as they wheel me up to this ICU elevator. And I saw a doctor in that room with no hat on. And I thought, boy, this is interesting. Somebody here doesn't have a hat. Everybody else has a hat. He has a bald spot. I didn't realize at the time that I'm witnessing or observing this moment for my own. Um, it wasn't, I didn't see this doctor's head for my purpose in life. I saw this doctor's head for his purpose. So later, I go on to explain to him that I had seen him, and I ended up shifting his belief systems because then he realized you can live beyond the body. So anyway, I'm going up in the elevator, and then the next moment I'm looking at them. I think there's a moment where I did go back in my body because I remember fighting off the ventilator tubes that they were putting in me. I was fighting it with everything I had. I couldn't breathe with it. I don't know what order this came in, but the next scene, I am looking at them working on my body again, and I can passionately feel their emotions. And I think this is so important because there's so many people I've worked with over the last 20, 25 years, and they always ask, what is it like when you're on the other side, when you're seeing or viewing or feeling your loved ones? And I can say very confidently, you can feel the emotions that you
Hey guys, if you've been enjoying this video so far, please make sure to support this channel. You can either subscribe to the channel, leave a like or a comment, or even share it with your family and friends. Apparently, it helps with the algorithm and I have no idea how that works. Also, I'm sending out weekly love notes where I'm sharing with you my own personal spirituality journey, and also will keep you posted on the upcoming community events that we have. We have a lot lined up for you. We've got group channeling events, Akashic record reading events, and a lot of such community events that I think you're going to absolutely love. All you have to do is go to www.celestevolve.com/love notes. Now let's get back to the video
that somebody is having for you. So I am able to feel the doctor's emotions and feel their thoughts. It's a feeling. And I'm telepathically, absolutely feeling every single bit of passion they have on trying to help me revive. But I have absolutely no idea why they're so worried about me all at the same time. I just wanted to say, I am just fine. I don't understand why you're so worried. It's okay. I'm right here. And it is so special to look back at that moment and realize that. So I'm watching them work on me, and believe it or not, I am honed in and to this really awful sound. And sound is important to you in this realm. And I noticed sound is one of the last things that goes with you, and one of the first things that comes to you when you enter or pass through the veil. So I'm focused on this annoying sound, and somehow I descend into the room in a laying position, like I'm laying down almost. It felt like I was literally coming in, downward. And I felt this is really unique, traveling this way. Usually I travel with my feet down. And I go to this machine and recognize it's a monitor showing a flat line. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. The body is not working. But I still wasn't worried. And when I turned back to the top of the room, which I noticed it was this huge, vast white space. There was no ceiling. There were no walls. I didn't feel any limitations to anything. I was just embracing, light all around me. And so I ascend again to the top of the room, and some lady meets me here. And I was really confused. I was like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why these people are so worried about me. And she was just very reassuring, very welcoming, and saying, I'm so glad that I'm with you. You're going to come with me. But first I have to show you something. And she has me look back down at the room, and we're studying the room together. And I noticed my mom is staring out the window, and there's a street light that casts over the window, and it looks orange outside. And there's snowflakes swirling in the air because it's the biggest blizzard of the year. I think they end up getting like 20 inches of snow that night. And I'm just watching her looking out the window, and I can feel her feelings. And it's my mother, and she's literally, telling the universe or telling God, please come get her. Please come get my daughter. Come get her. And I was so confused. I was like, why is she praying for them to come take me? Why wouldn't she ask for me to live? But I was so confused. And this lady was like, well, she's in a state of surrendering. And she knows, she has the knowledge that everything's going to be okay. And that's actually very wise. And she's a very wise, loving soul. But she just doesn't understand everything because she's limited to her understanding in that body. But the moment she leaves that body, she's going to be all knowing and all spiritual, just like us. And I was satisfied with that answer. I said, okay, she loves me. She just doesn't understand I'm right here. And I'm almost, I don't know. I don't know how to explain. I can go much further into that. So anyway, I remember looking at this lady above the room, and I had asked her, like, who are you? And she goes, well, I'm the one who named you. And when you're there, you speak telepathically. And I didn't have to question what she meant. I knew when she said, I am the one who named you, that it literally meant that, but I didn't know why. And I'm just going to insert this here because I always forget to come back. But 6 months after I did survive, because of the ventilator tubes in my throat, I did suffer vocal cord trauma. I had zero voice for the first year at all. I couldn't even scream a whisper. And so I had to walk around with a clipboard and a notepad everywhere I went. So one night I was staying the night at my mom's house. Again, this is 6 months after I came back to life. I had yet to tell her anything. Um, I, I I came back down the stairs one night and she's looking at a picture on her computer and there was these girls on a brick wall. And in the middle was the one lady who met me above the room. But this picture's from like the 1950s or something. It's an old dated picture. And I point to her and I said, hey, I met her. I met her. And I was so, so excited. I was like, I met her. I met her. I met her. And my mom could understand what I was saying, but she was like, no, you didn't meet her. You didn't meet her. So I got out a notebook and I wrote down, well, I did meet her from above the room when I died. And she said she was the one who named me. And I'm very, I was very excited. I realized this is a real person from my past somewhere. And my mom proceeded to tell me again and again, you did not meet her. You did not. She died when I was 8.5 months pregnant with you. There's no way you could have met her. Then I showed her what I wrote. And she reads it. And my mom, who is non emotional, again, she didn't even care I was dying, right? She looks at this document and she starts crying a lot, like sobbing uncontrollably. And I was just, I knew she just had to get through this moment and I let her get through it. And then she finally comes up out of it and she said, you're right. You're right. When I was 8.5 months pregnant with you, I went to the hospital. I had just had an ultrasound and the doctors back in 1982, when you were born, didn't have very good technology, but they had told me I was going to have a boy. And I told my grandma, this was her maternal grandmother, I'm going to have a boy. And she goes, no, 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 honey, you're going to have a girl. And they argued about this. She goes, no, you're going to have a girl. She's going to have brown hair, brown eyes, and she's going to be called Crystal Faith because she's going to have pure faith in this world. And my mom obviously didn't have a girl name picked out when I came out. She had a boy name. So she took the name Crystal Faith and gave it to me. And everyone always said, what a beautiful name. How'd you come up with this? And she took the credit for it. And she was sobbing because she told me in the moment, my grandmother always told me, Terry, you can't take somebody else's credit. You got to give credit where it's deserved. So 25 years later, I'm realizing I see this lady above the room, not for my benefit, but for my mom's benefit. This was what awakens her spiritually. Now she believes me. I also see my grandfather and my sister talking in the other room. That's another long story. I'm just going to skip that out. But later I validated 100% everything that was going on. And they became believers. And they independently of one another said, yes, that is what happened. So now I'm above the room with the lady and she's like, okay, now let's turn towards the light. Just like they say in the book, right? So I turn and I go into the light and it felt like I shed every ounce of heaviness. I no longer had anything that weighed me down. That includes your thoughts and your body, and everything that you carry as a burden in your life was just gone. And I realized now I'm in this room and there's no one here but me. And I wasn't worried. I knew that lady was fine. And she did, she brought me into the light. And I'm in this room and it's so healing. It's just this bright, white, vast space that indefinitely goes in all directions. And I have an infinite amount of decisions here of where I want to go and what I want to do. And I'm just sitting here soaking it in like sunlight, on a beach day, just absorbing this. But it comes in through a feeling of love, and you just feel so healing and so loved. And it didn't take me long, maybe moments, where I realized I'm hearing something and it's beautiful. And I could hear angels singing, and I knew in my mind they were angels, but I never saw them. But I could hear them singing, and they sounded like instruments for their voices. And every unique voice had a different instrument. But boy, did they play beautifully. And my biggest takeaway on this is that they always were able to exhale and never inhale. So they were just pouring all of their love and soul and energy out into the universe with this beautiful song of no voices, no words, just harmonious, beautiful music. And it almost is like it becomes one with the light. And I am just embracing it and bringing it in. I healing and healing. And I don't even know how long I was there, but eventually my little curious mind thought, I'm going to go see what else is here. It's kind of boring. I don't know how to explain it. Boring's too hard of a word, but I wanted to know more. So a part of me just instinctively went left, and I start going left for a very long time. And I'm traveling at the speed of light, maybe faster. And the more like I allowed myself to push into this space, the faster I can go. It is unexplainable. I hope I hope you can feel what I'm experiencing here. So I'm going so fast, like breaking the speed of sound for sure, and going faster than light. And eventually, I upon traveling what felt like billions of years, I was like, there should be something else here. This is beautiful. And then suddenly, this beautiful garden just presented in itself. I mean, the most beautiful garden. And it is only flowers and plants and that are not of the earthly realm. So my imagination couldn't even make this up. And I am now in this garden, and there's a canopy over my head. I can zoom in and see the tiniest fractal detail of anything I want to see. All at the same time, I can travel really fast and still be able to hone in on something I had just passed. I'm feeling a dirt road under my feet, but I don't have feet. Everything has a consciousness, and the consciousness is love, and we're all vibrating at the same frequency. So it's like it was made for me by me, and I'm like co-creating it. It's such a hard it's unexplainable. But I'm looking at these plants, and they're so beautiful, and I can watch them open up and come to life and see the pollen on the inside in great detail. And then after a long time, I'm like, maybe there should be like beautiful creatures here. And then suddenly there was these beautiful creatures, again, not of this world. I can't even compare them to dragonflies or fairies or anything, just these beautiful creatures. And I'm just enjoying this garden experience so much. And again, it's so healing for me. And I finally get to like what feels like a T intersection. I can go left or right. And I wanted to take a right. And a lot of people, I just want to back up a little bit too. And this happened 25 years ago. And for the first 10 years, there wasn't one story I could find of anybody who, like, finding somebody who had a near death experience and willing to share it with you was extremely rare. Extremely. And I told this story the same way every single time. Every once in a while, I'll come across a person where they're like, I took a left. And then in there was all these beautiful buildings that felt like ancient Greek, but even better, or there were pyramids or huge buildings. So if you hear of anybody going to heaven and they see like the learning place is really what they are, I think they're all on the left. And it seems to me like all the stories where they encounter what I'm about to explain are on the right, which is just interesting. that it's seemingly always this way. So, I go right, and I eventually end up in this courtyard, this beautiful courtyard, and it had pillars around us. There was a man sitting on a bench, and the bench was natural, and I couldn't tell you if it was wood or stone, but I know it had a consciousness, and it was natural, and it was one with us. So I went and sat down next to this man because he beckoned me to come over and sit with him. And when you're in this state of mind, you're only kind of you don't see like the lamp off to my side and the picture frames. You're really only focused on who you're speaking to or who you're giving your attention to. Everything else just is a blur in the background. So I'm only focused on this guy, and I am oblivious to what's before us and below us, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. So I'm talking to this guy, and I say this guy because I never asked his name. I never said, "Who are you?" But I can say it felt as close to a Jesus as you can get. Or I've heard people say, I met Buddha there. I met Jesus there. I met my spiritual healer there, my guardian angel, my angel. You can call it what you want. I feel like I co created this being in front of me to be somebody that I would receive as being unique and special to me, that I could receive without my subconscious self questioning what I'm seeing or observing. And I have put a lot of research into that, and there is other research out there that supports this. So everybody's going to see something unique to them that you are manifesting and creating during your physical life in preparation to your afterlife, which is what I do today. Is I help people on their spiritual journey so that they can create the best afterlife experience that they can imagine. So, but all of this was done with no intention. It just came into me. And I'm noticing this guy has the most beautiful eyes. He looked Middle Eastern. He had dark hair and just golden, bright, brilliant light eyes. And I'm speaking to him again telepathically. So we look at each other in the eyes, and I am noticing that I can understand everything he's saying to me. And it comes in as huge chunks of communication or huge concepts. I don't have to worry about understanding if, making sure we have the same understanding of a certain word. So I think that's amazing. I've studied communications for 10 years out of college for that reason. So I'm being poured this downloadable, I don't know how to say it, like encyclopedia books full of knowledge about everything there is to know about life. I'm seeing quantum physics stuff that I numbers and calculations, and I see simulation matrix fields, and I don't even know how to explain it. I'm just being downloaded, like all these meanings of life. And if you want to get into them, I have a lot of memory of them. But I am at one point, at the end of the day, it all boils down to one thing, and it's love. The meaning of life is love. And I was like, oh, this is beautiful. And I get it now. I get why all of this is created. And it is such a profound feeling that we get to experiment with and experience with in the space and time realm. So I'm there, and he's telling me how much he loves me, how good of a job I did. I was perfect. Everything was beautifully orchestrated just the way it was. It didn't matter that I was naughty from time to time growing up. It didn't matter I had a baby born out of wedlock. I was received with pure love. And I was shown that variance of not knowing what I should be doing based on knowing everything about love is what grace is. That space between being truly accepted just the way you are, and all those feelings, or even a sense of ignorance, not knowing what you should be doing. And that's all okay, because we're here for a physical experience and to learn something about love or the absence of love. And that's all it is. So he's telling me, I love you so much unconditionally. You are absolutely perfect. I was always with you when you were little. And suddenly I had this flashback. I'm like, wait a minute. You're right. I was lonely sometimes. You weren't always with me. So like I still carry the ability to, question things here. It's not like he gets to tell me something and I have to believe it. I get the opportunity to question him still. So there is that layer of free will, even on the other side. And I'm there and I'm like, you were not with me. There were all these times where I was alone and, I cried for help. And he goes, no, let me show you. And I've explained this before on another channel, but I was shown as a child that I had an imaginary friend and I called her Coco. And everyone in my family thought it was so funny. I had an imaginary friend named Coco because my brother called me Coco because he couldn't say Crystal. And so I grew up with this imaginary friend and she was always present with me. And this Jesus guy takes me back and shows me all of these scenes in my life where I'm able to see myself playing, my 17, 18-year-old self playing with my younger 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old self, giving that child comfort and saying, I love you so much and you are so perfect. And I had no idea, but I was my own imaginary friend. How amazing is that? And I'm being shown this from a doorway of a room, from the mirror of a wall, um, from what looks like the leaves in a tree, and just anything where life can come out of. I have goosebumps because I love it. And I was like, okay, this is kind of, this is fun, this is great. And I got to ask him lots of questions. I'm like, so how do we get back to heaven? How did I get here? Is like my family members from all walks of life and religion going to be able to get here? And he specifically said, you're so silly. You're so silly. All paths lead to the same place. And I was like, oh, okay. You don't question. You get to question, but you don't question what you're being told. You just know you're being told the truth. There's no way you can lie here. So he was telling me and showing me through this download of different concepts that every religion goes to the same place. It's how we perceive that place to be before we get there. So I'm like, okay, this is beautiful. I don't have to worry now. There's no worry that one family member might be Catholic and another family member might be Buddhist. Or I don't have to worry about my Muslim friends. We're all going to the same place. This is so exciting. And eventually, in this garden space courtyard, I was being told, okay, you did a really good job. Now we're going to go to the next place. And I didn't know what that meant, nor do I do. I don't know this today. And I was just accepting, okay, I'm ready. He's like, but wait, I got something to show you. And I didn't know what he meant, but he pointed to these babies down below me and they were sitting by my feet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. Like, how adorable. I just couldn't, like, in heaven, a baby is billion times cuter than you can ever imagine here. And it had like a white sparkling gown and they had like light emanating from behind them. And they were just so pure and so beautiful. And they didn't have a sex gender yet. It didn't feel like they were a boy or a girl. It was just this, you knew it was a baby. And I was just so in love with these babies. And I remember looking at one and I was like, oh my gosh, you're so cute. And I was thinking this, I'm like, I just wish I could pick you up. Oh my gosh. And then suddenly it said, you can't just pick me up. I'm my own wise, spiritual, divine being, just like you. You can't just pick me up. You need my permission. And of course, I'm in shock. I can't believe it can read my mind. I can't believe it just told me off. Um, with all good humor and love too. There was nothing malicious about it, but it put me in a spiritual state of shock. And all of a sudden, the next thing I think I was in this black void space. I don't remember how I got there. I just instantly was in this black void space. And I don't remember anything. Again, the veil comes across, and I'm in this black void space, and it's just me, just my consciousness. And I am in this state of being in its most organic form. And I don't question anything. I don't think about anything. There's just nothing. It's just literally the I am. So when you're reading the Bible and it says in the beginning, there was nothing. That's where I was in the state of nothingness. But the space around me was like a velvety, a loving space. Love existed there. And I it didn't feel like a vacuum. I didn't feel temperature. I've had a lot of people ask questions about it. I didn't see light. I'm just in this black space of being I am. Just I am. The deepest state of meditation that anybody can get to. That is where I was. And after a while, which honestly felt like billions of years, I was just comfortable. I didn't want anything. I didn't think to want anything. I was just an I am. But I began to it was like something snapped and my consciousness expanded beyond the I am. And I became aware that there's more to me, that I have a me, I have a sense of me. So now I'm transcending from the divine state of I am to the conscious being where I'm like, oh, I have an I am. And I sat in this space for a while and I was like, okay, so and it was very sporadic. Like I'm feeling comfortable. A long time passes, infinitely long time. Um, After a while, I was even like in the vast white space where I was like, I need to create something here. I thought, there should be something here. And I was like, there should be a light. And then boom, there was a light, like a firework or a shooting star, maybe. And I was like, oh, that was really fun. And I started playing around with that and literally saying there should be another light and another light, and the light should go this way and that way, and it should explode this way and then that way. And I was literally creating what I was seeing with my mind, which is why I love hypnotherapy. I'm in hypnotherapy today. So, so I'm there and I'm creating, and then I'm like, okay, I can create. I know I can. And I didn't need to experiment with that anymore. I already knew I could create. And now I begin to sense time. I'm like, okay, so now I've experienced space. I've experienced the I am. I've transcended from that and realized I'm more than just the I am. I need to transcend time. And I'm like, what is time? It was like I was creating time in the moment, almost as if I was the God creator looking back on the one timeline that I just had. And you get people who explain how they have like a spiritual cord attached to them. I think that spiritual cord was attached still because I was able to travel back through time and remember, oh yeah, I just had a baby. And I was like, wait, I just had a life. Wait, where am I? Is this, where's heaven? I was just in heaven, but where is that? This is dark. This is black. And I've been here for a really, really, really long time. Like, is this hell? And then suddenly I started going into a state of fear. And this is what I mean. Like, you should not experience fear on earth, because if and when you do, you may go and have a hellish experience. So I knew I was just in the garden with the Jesus being, so I did not encounter a hellish experience, but I could see how some people have a near-death experience and begin to have a hellish experience because of this state of being. So I went the other direction. I said, wait a minute, I know I'm dead. I'm alone. There's no one here. There's an absence of light, an absence of love all of a sudden, because I'm co-creating this moment. And I said, God, show me the love, show me the light. Oh my gosh, bring me back into that space. I need to come back. I need to come back. And before I can even begin to beg, I was simultaneously back in a bright white space. And this space felt different. So in this space, it didn't feel like the vast white space where I can go in any direction. It felt like I was tethered. And this is hard to explain. So I felt like I was tethered by the back of my neck, by my spinal cord. And I've heard people mention that they're attached to their silver cord through their spinal cord or chakra system. And then also, I do a lot of removing spiritual blocks, and this always comes up. It's it's crazy, but we're connected somehow to the physical realm through our spinal cord, or something in that space, right? So I'm here, I'm tethered, I'm feeling what I feel like I'm laying on a bed, but I don't see my bed. I don't see my body. I just feel like I'm laying on a bed. I'm in this white space. I could tell it's circular or oval, which is extremely profound. Um, and the space is so white. It's like an artificial white light that resembles what I just felt in the heaven vast space. But this is definitely artificial. It feels like there's a flashlight on your eyes, where you just can't see through it. And I'm sitting here trying to adjust my spiritual eyes or physical eyes, I don't even know, to this space. And I'm like, okay, something's going on. I'm not alone. I sense other people or beings here. I really need to know what they are. And I just kept studying that space around me. And eventually it was like, just like your eyes adjust to the light when you're turning into the sunlight or taking off your sunglasses, this being started to manifest in front of me. And I could see it. It's so beautiful. Let me just say that. Um, it in the biblical text, they say there's angels, and the angels have these golden wings that go around you. And in this space, I could definitively tell that this resembled an angel, but it was not the angel that we depicted on our physical plane. This is a light, that source that comes out maybe through around the chakra system, and it just illuminates that direction because your head blocks the light. But yet there's this singular separate light above the head that creates what we consider a halo. Just, it's a really deep thought, I know. But I feel like this being had a pure chakra system, and the crown chakra created the halo. And that's what an angel is. And this divine being looked at me, but wouldn't look at me in the eye. And I could tell it was in its purest loving form. There was nothing to be afraid of. It was pure love. It had it. I don't know if it's my higher dimensional self, a higher being. I've heard alien abductions being compared to this moment. I have no idea what this being is. It did look like an angel, but it didn't have like feathery wings. There was something else to it. And I notice its eyes are pure blue. It has long blonde hair, and the hair doesn't weigh down like mine and yours does with gravitational pull. It kind of flows, but not enough for it to be underwater. Um, and it's just this magical space. And it's looking at me, and I'm coming from the space of I'm dead. What's going to happen to me? I manifested this light space like I needed answers. I came into this space with the intention of receiving more answers. So I am laying here, and I have no idea what I look like to this being. I have no idea. I could be a head. I could be a ball of light. I could be a body. I can't tell. There's no sense of truly me. I just feel a sense of me. So it wouldn't look at me. And I kept saying, can you please look at me? Like, I need you to look at me in the eyes, because I know if you look at me in the eyes, then I will be able to see the truth and know what's going on here. And I begged and I begged. I'm like, please look at me in the eyes. Like, what's going on? And it eventually it was, I think, trying to tell me, I cannot look at you in the eye. And I think about this a lot. I'm like, why couldn't you look at me in the eye? But I was very persistent, and it was almost like, fine, you want me to look you in the eye? I'm gonna look you in the eye. And it looked me in the eye, and boom, I was just like surged backwards with this super enormous amount of, like, it felt like a Star Wars laser beam or a lightning bolt. It like just shot me back, and I was being downloaded with everything all at once. Everything that has to do with creation, all of the meaning of life, everything possible was being surged. I'm in the state of being surged, right? And I know now I can speak telepathically, and there is no miscommunication here. So I'm asking it, okay, so I'm in this, I'm dead. I accept that, but I still want that baby, the one I just left back on Earth. Can you bring her here? And that's literally what my intention was here. And she was saying, no, no, she's in that realm. You're in this realm. You cannot go back. And I started to panic. And just like they say, with all the stages of grief, I began to go through all the stages of grief. And I'm like, please send me back. Please send me back. I was like, I worked so hard to keep that baby alive. I want to be able to hold it and raise it. And at first, this is really important. At first, I wanted to go back to that earthly realm for selfish reasons. I did that. I birthed her. I should be able to hold her. Let me go back and hold her. And they were like, no, you can't. And I was like, and then we got further along in our conversation, and I was like, I was shown that this baby's going to have all of these different potential outcomes in life based on um, different paths that she ends up choosing in life. And each one of them resulted without having an earthly mother who loves her unconditionally. And it was going to be a pain point for her. And I suffered greatly in this understanding. I'm like, you have to send me back. And suddenly something shifted in me, and I started begging, and like, let me go back and bring this newborn baby love. I promise I will bring her all the love you guys gave me today. Let me go back to the earth realm and bring this baby back here with love. And she was like, I believe you. And now I feel like you know what love is. It's surrendering to everything just to be able to give love. But I can't send you back. And I just kept questioning it. I'm like, but why? Why can't you send me back? I was like, and then she was like, and she kept saying, it's okay. You're going to be able to give more to that baby from here in heaven. You're going to be able to give that baby more love from here in heaven than you ever can on earth. And that's important. There was so much significance. And I was shown that that baby has a better chance of receiving love over the course of its life through you giving love through the works of others, or nudging other people's unconscious thoughts, or presenting the opportunity, or being in nature, giving love to that baby, and that baby will feel it. And it will feel the love in the wind. It'll feel the love in the breeze. And you're going to be able to do more for that baby in here in heaven than you ever can on earth. And this gives me peace when I think now of all my loved ones that have passed. But I still was being stubborn. And I said, you showed me all of the possible outcomes of this baby not having love from their mother. And I don't want that for that baby. Please. And I was like, at this point, bargaining with this being. I will bring her all the love that I can. And I will do more for the earthly realm than I ever can on here. And I promise I'm going to do that. And she believed me. And she then proceeded to tell me, but you don't understand. You can't go back to earth because your body is wasted. It's done. And I kept going, kept going. And finally she's like, all right, I understood at some point it wasn't about anything other than her not being able to get permission to send me back. So we needed another divine being to intervene and give and bring the healing to my physical body. And so I said, can you get the permission, please? Like, let's just get this over with. Why are we going back and forth? Because this transcended over a long time, but yet it happened very quickly. And suddenly she was like, okay, all right. And she looks at me above the eyes, kind of where my halo would be. And I could see her pleading with her light, like her laser light focus from her eyes literally like surged into my halo and created this light above my head. It was so amazing. And the sun, as soon as she did that, I felt this enormous feeling from the floor to the ceiling. And at this point, I'm feeling my life enter my physical body from my physical body. And I feel the breath of God literally going back in my body. And I elevate off the bed and come back down. And as this feeling goes through my physical body, I know I'm going to be okay. I know everything's going to be just fine. And I was so full of love and knowledge that I was going to be okay. And I wake up and I'm in a coma. I can't move. At this point, they had me tethered to a bed because I had been violently seizing so much. They had to tie my arms down to a bed. And I can hear them, my loved ones saying goodbye. I could hear my last rites being said to me. And the whole time, I'm like, you guys, I'm just fine. I am okay. Just relax. Like, that's all I wanted to communicate. But yes, so that's, I could go on explaining the aftermath. But long story short, we were in the hospital for about 8 weeks. We both went home on the same day. With her coming out. She actually got out a few days before me, but they let her stay in the hospital until I could be released. And it's been a journey, but I'm here and I've done nothing but obsessively talk about this, study this, and just kind of honed in all of my spiritual skills possible since coming back. And I'm just really here to help anybody that needs like spiritual clarity. Maybe if you have like, you want to know what your soul purpose is, you have a spiritual block. That's what I focus on now, to help people get back to that realm and go to the life between lives and navigate you through that, because it is just all about love.
Wow. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Yes, of course. You're welcome.
And even, by the way, the name Crystal Faith is such a beautiful name. I honestly thought that that was your stage name after you had an NDE, so that, it would be like good
Yeah.
for podcast or something. I thought that was your stage name. Crystal, tell me, why would you, whenever you try to remember this experience and tell it to other people, how does it make you feel?
I still get the emotions in certain scenes. Like I could feel the doctors loving me, which I could go on to talk about all of that too. But much later, they all validated I experienced and saw everything that I did. And I've changed their lives. And I put this in a book recently, and they've also given me statements, explaining from their perspective, which entirely lines up with mine. But it's emotions. And when you're in a state of pure love, you don't forget emotions. So just like if you have a baby, you'll never forget the emotion you had that day. If you're in a tragic car accident and something terrible happens to you, or you don't forget that emotion. And so when you're in this experience and it's all emotions, and you can feel the feelings of others while you're in it, it just, it's glorifying. You can always remember the story with great detail, just like you can when you give birth to a baby and you get to look at it for the first time and feel that love.
What you said is true, because when I sit down to do meditations or any sort of, I don't channel per se, or maybe I do, I don't know, but it's always the emotion that comes out more than the vision. It's the emotion, and then for me to try to explain that emotion to other people, words won't be enough.
Hmm.
Now, when did you decide to share the story with the world, and why did you decide to do it?
Well, I've been sharing since I came back. Um, at first, a little cautiously because I had the limiting belief put into me as soon as I came back when I started explaining it to the doctors, and they were like, "Shh, don't tell anyone. You're going to go to the loony bin if they find out." So I was kind of nervous about sharing it at first. I was worried I'd be judged, and then when I started becoming more comfortable sharing it, I'd go to church leaders or religious friends because I thought, surely they'll understand. And honestly, they don't. They don't understand. I kept getting pushback, like, that's not what you experienced, even from people who are like preaching, you're going to go to heaven when you die. I die and I come back and I'm saying I went to heaven. They're like, that's, you need to repent for saying that. You can't say that. You should be ashamed for saying, making these claims. And I'm like, aren't you the one preaching about this? Like, this should be, like brought up in sermon on Sunday. So it, I hope I'm answering your question, but it took me a long time to like start coming out all the time. But I mean, I got to the point where I have I have a big background in working in the corporate field, and I would come out and tell my largest accounts, you won't believe this near death experience I have, or I'm in a homeschool group because I homeschool my two younger children today. And I'm like, you won't believe this near death experience. I just share it to everybody in any moment that it feels comfortable sharing it. And I wanted to come out recently and start sharing it because some things happen inside of me. And I'm like, okay, so I feel like the world is ready to receive this message. Like, I just have this sensation that we're ready to hear it. So about 3 years ago, I started coming out publicly and speaking about it and doing like workshops and live presentations on stage and at events.
Do you know why I even started a podcast like this? Because of watching a near death experience on another podcast. If it was something to do with someone speaking about breath work, meditation, yoga, channeling, out of body experience, it wouldn't have resonated with me. But it was a near death experience video that got me really intrigued to explore. What is there? God? Is there heaven? Is there no hell? What is happening? So the fact that you're sharing this is massive. It's amazing. It's big, it really changes people. It starts with the near death experience. So thank you so much for sharing it. When you talk about your near death experience with other people, right? How do they usually react to you? This sort of experience would definitely change other people as well, right? How has this changed the way you see your life?
I learned from that experience, it's not about what happens to us in life, it's about how we respond to it. And everything is all about love. Everything, everything is all about love. You don't know what you want to do career path wise, you need to meditate and figure out which one you feel more love for. It's not about money, it's about love. And those are my two biggest takeaways from it.
When you said you were sitting there and getting the downloads of in the form of sacred geometry and maths and all of that, did you get any information about what is yet to come in the future on the planet?
I was shown everything that transcends time before and after. But when you're there, you're focused only on what matters to you most in the moment. So, coming back from that experience, if I really need to know what to do, and there's a state of meditation I can get myself into that allows me to connect with that field of information, that portal of information, and I can draw from that information anytime I want. but it's not like, I mean, if I sat here and meditated, my limiting belief in my human ego today says that's forbidden knowledge. You should not know what goes on in the future because that's forbidden, and you're taking away the free right of so many people around you and how they're going to respond. Even if we're all aligned on the same intention, we're all going to respond differently in the situation, and there may be a different potential outcome. And I was shown something about like parallel universes and parallel lives, and um, there's something there too. So it gets, and I was shown that quantum physics folds in on itself through space and time, and I was shown that that's how outer space works. But there's so much to that I I things just resonate and make sense when I'm reviewing something. I'm like, okay, that is definitely the case, or this is almost there but not quite. And that's kind of how my knowledge comes back to me today. But I can't sit here and say, yeah, Tanya, we're going to, experience some hardship over the next year, and then we're going to go back to Native American times in the next 20 years. Like, I, I think that's really based on the universal consciousness of all of us as a collective. And nothing can be truly predicted because we're all incrementally making different decisions along the way.
Makes sense. You had spoken about something interesting, which is the new form of channeling, where you're not in constant stream of information, but you can always tap in. Can you explain what you meant by that?
When, if I am like, I'll pick on a client because a lot of them will be watching this and they're going to be like, yep, she's right. So if I'm sitting with somebody and they're really doing some spirit work on themselves, or I'm doing spirit work with them, I feel like this telepathic opening comes out between our crown chakra and our heart chakras. And we kind of lock in on um, invisible this invisible download with one another. Like, we can literally connect, just like me and you right here on this virtual platform. We can connect because time and space doesn't exist, right? So we're connecting with intention and with a telepathic portal of knowledge, and only then that's how I mostly get my information. So something will just flick above my head, where I feel like my higher dimensional self really is compelling me to say or do something. Like, I have to say this, and I'll always ask permission, like, Tanya, I really feel compelled to say this right now. Do I have your permission? And almost always everybody says, yes, please tell me, and then whatever I say absolutely resonates with them because they're like, I didn't even want to tell you that, or that hit me really deep, and I wouldn't be ready to talk about that yet, but you're absolutely right. Or how did you know that I had an uncle named Mark? um, or it might be, and usually, let me back up to, it's always about love and the energy and intention. It's all aligned. So only in moments where I'm really opening up my heart and crown chakra to loving and intentionally be able to help somebody do I get this. Although there are many situations too where I could be walking in a grocery store and I suddenly feel extremely compelled to tell some stranger something. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to go over there and talk to her. Like, I am wearing scurvy outfits today, or my hair's pulled up and she's beautiful, or whatever. You get these self-conscious beliefs that limit you from confidently going out to talk to them. But if I ignore this voice, it's very persistent. It's like, go back to where she is in the store and tell her. So I do, and every single time it's received well. So I've become less shy. Um, I definitely, you probably won't see me just coming right out to you because they're not every day or anything like that. But when they do, they do. And I am not sure whose higher self is involved in that moment. If I'm just open spiritually, and and the spirit realm knows I'm more open. And I think there is something about our beings here on the earthly plane because when I was above the room, there were a couple of doctors who actually emanated some like light from them as well, and I could tell they're more pure. So I feel like the like ghost or people who've passed on know exactly who to connect with and who's open, and they're going to come in through them. And I think it's all the light's also measured by the how often you choose to turn on that frequency. Because sometimes I'll go, like, I'm very in the moment, I'm very, very spiritual. I'm working with a lot of people over a couple of weeks, which, by the way, technology always goes wrong with me because internet goes down because I have so much energy. But then I go to the grocery store and then I'm absolutely going to hear something. So it is like a muscle that you're working on. So some people can come out and like claim they channel. I don't give them doubt. Um, I psychic mediums who are always working that muscle. I don't give them doubt. I just know mine is actually many years ago. I had like it sounds so woo woo. Forgive me, but I felt like there were ghosts talking to me all the time. There was light being showing up in the middle of the night when I'm studying. I went to law school. So when I'm studying and I would see a light coming out of a laundry basket just out of the peripheral vision, it starts to distract you from the physical realm. So for many years, I saw absolutely everything. I would walk past people and then there'd be something like obstructing my view from seeing them for just a split second and then they're gone. Or there would be people that would, walk up to me and then I would turn around and they're gone, like on a path in the middle of nowhere around a lake. There's nowhere for them to go. So after a while, I had to say, okay, physical realm, I need you to kind of hone that back a little bit because it's disrupting my life and making me think I'm crazy. But over the last like 8 years or so, I've reopened that channel, and it's like a muscle I'm working on.
It's like you said, it's a muscle that we keep practicing on, it's the muscle that we keep working on, and it does give you inspiration. Or for me, I feel like a lot of the times when I'm going through these very confusing periods, I would just try to tap into that information source that you were talking about, and I always get clarity. This NDE happened to you at such a young age, right? How has that influenced the work that you do right now? And can you tell us more about the work that you do now as well?
To answer your question specifically, how does it influence my work today? I would say when I'm dealing with children or even adults who need to go back to the inner child and do some work on their inner child, that all comes extremely natural for me because I know all children are born with pureness and desire to do well, and they come in all knowing. And unfortunately for them, they just can't speak up right away, right? They are not physically ready to speak. And before they're ready to speak, they start forgetting things. I don't know if that veil of forgetfulness is at birth, but I would like to believe it's not. I do believe they come in, and as they become more physically in tune with the physical realm, it's like a spectrum where you got your spiritual side and your physical side, and you got to kind of come through it. Um, so when I'm working with people, I try to help them remember their inner child and bring them into alignment with their true essence, their true being. And it is all about love. So we might look at a scene and analyze the scene from a new perspective. Like, what was really going on in this scene that was meant to teach you something about love that you're being shown today? How can we look at this scene differently so that we are loving, caring, all forgiving beings of every player in that scene? So even when I'm working with clients who are having a tragic experience, maybe they were abused as a child, we go and we look at the perspective from the abuser, the perpetrator, and we build a sense of forgiveness and see it from their perspective. They're a limiting being with their own past experiences that are influencing the way they're responding in life right now. But if we remove that being and take them to above the room with you and bring their higher dimensional self into the room with you, I promise you they're going to come through as all loving, and they're going to be so apologetic because they didn't mean to hurt you. They didn't know. We're all limited. Even if even if I'm dealing with somebody whose parents were from a very specific religion and diehard religious followers, and then they pass on, and there's no way to connect with them anymore because they're gone. I have people who come to me who want to connect with them and view them from their higher dimensional self. So we bring both of the higher dimensional selves into the room to shed light on the love. And we realize it's the intention behind the perpetrator, right? It's not really a real perpetrator. It was their intentions were aligned to what they thought was correct and pure, just like we all are on this planet. But we all have a different perspective of that. So it's how do we lift the veil and see it from its truest form? I hope this makes sense because we can go off on a tangent in many areas on it.
It makes total sense, and I'm so glad I asked that question. A lot of the times, I think the channelers, or rather the entities that channelers channel, they're always trying to give us things from a different perspective, a higher perspective. And it gives people clarity, it gives people peace. So that's amazing. You are a hypnotherapist now, and you're also going to release your new book as well. Tell us about the book that you're going to release, and also about where people can find you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm actually working on certifying a new form of hypnotherapy that could be available for people who just want to do self hypnosis to hypnotherapists in the field who've been around for many years, because there isn't a lot of knowledge and skill sets brought to the table on helping people navigate through the life between lives field. Certainly, you get these quantum healers, or I'm not going to say any practices, but there's a lot of spiritual leaders in the field of hypnotherapists who are like, I can get you to life between lives. And sure enough, they can, but there's no real skills trained to the therapist on how to navigate you through that, how to shed light onto things, and how to call in. And you're just kind of like, okay, we're here now. What? I'm just going to go based on my last experiences, and then you kind of get everything thrown at you because you don't know what you don't know what you don't know. So I'm trying to create a course for that. But you can go to crystalfaith.net. I do work with spiritual healing, breaking spiritual blocks, helping you align with your purpose, figuring out what your purpose is in life. And a lot of us are on that path right now, or we've been on that path and we're at a block. So we got to go in there, and hypnotherapy is extremely effective to overcome that block. And so that's really powerful. My book is actually for the audience of people who I share my story in greater depth. I provide some deeper insights into different aspects of my near-death experience. I talk a little bit about some of the higher level takeaways, like it's all about love. It's all about experiencing love or the absence of love. God is love, God is light. And if you can define God as love and God as light, you will perceive love or life from such a different perspective. You will read ancient texts, ancient scrolls, ancient books, everything from a different perspective. And only then will you really resonate with what history has been teaching us all along. You got to go back to the original sources. So I do a lot of that. And then there's 12 steps to reintegrating into society after a near-death experience, because it is extremely difficult to come back and become strong enough to share your story. You always wonder if you're validated. And I kind of walk you through how to feel that validation. I'm also, there's another program, an association called IANS. It's International Association of Near-Death Studies. I lead 2 sharing groups. There's sharing groups all over the world. And there's very specific groups that have weekly and monthly meetings that talk about different types of near-death experiences. And this could bring a lot of, this is very powerful for anybody who's grieving. Maybe they're going to lose a loved one, have a loved one that's gone. Maybe they're getting a terrible diagnosis. Maybe you've had a past life experience or just a spiritual transformational event. You can go onto ions.org and join a group just like you and your experience that aligns and resonates with you and receive that validation and healing. So all of that is on my website, crystalfaith.net. And I also have a discovery call. So if anybody just wants to privately share their story or share an insight, like, do you think this could be this? What do you feel like that could be? You're welcome to call me. I keep my cell phone number on my website. I keep all lines of communication open, and I will respond as soon as I am available. So feel free to connect with me for sure.
That's beautiful. Crystal, it takes a lot of courage to come through and talk about your experience. Like you said, a lot of the times you would be struggling with validation because it's a lot that's happened. And the strength that it's taken for you to come out and share it with the world is brilliant. And we really so thankful and grateful that you've done that. So we have something called the Cosmic Close, which is the final segment that I have in the episode where I ask two questions to my guests. So the first question to you would be, how may we be free of suffering and find lasting peace and happiness?
You would tune into yourself and feel the love that you have for yourself because you are a divine being from within. And if you can really tune in to the divine being from within and align yourself with the love that you have and the love that you can give to the universe and also receive from the universe, there would be no suffering. Because if your lens will change and you will start to begin to perceive life differently. Even in our most tragic experiences, you're going to see that there's something to gain about love from this experience and that time doesn't really exist. So when you realize that suffering, most of our suffering is derived from losing a loved one or losing something about you physically. And when you start to align yourself and you realize that love is an energy and it's all present all the time and it just transcends or transforms to a new energy, then you can allow yourself to receive that energy. So rather than grieving, receive. Rather than suffering, allow yourself to open up and feel the love that the universe is trying to give you because it's right there in front of you. It's just right there.
Wow, I love that answer. I love that answer. The second question is, what do you think is the nature of our reality?
That's a fun question. I'm always questioning the nature of reality because I was seeing things on a quantum level. Um, I know I'm a co-creator in a simulation and that this realm is less real than that realm. And whenever I start to panic or get anxiety, I have to stop and step beside myself and be like, all right, so the reality of this is really not me and my emotions right now. Let's just clear the board and look at this differently and align myself to myself again. So I feel like a lot of people go through that over and over again, but the more you practice getting back into that state of wiping the board, starting fresh and just feeling your love and intentions purely again, the more you're going to be able to go through life with a sense of gratitude always.
Love that. So, with that, we come to the end of this episode. I hope all of you have enjoyed watching this. And for any of the links that we have been mentioned in the episode, please head over to celestevolve.com/episode/29. We have also covered a lot, which I know, which is why we have the Celeste Evolve chatbot, where you can put in your questions and the answers would pop up to you from all of the episodes and all of the podcasts that we have shared on the website, on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Crystal, for joining us today on the podcast. Really appreciate
It's my
it.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay.